Your phone is unlocked right now, not by you, by someone sitting halfway across the world using your own face against you. And the app that made it possible has been silently running in the background this entire time. This is not a theory. This is not a drill. In March 2026, 3 of the world's most respected cybersecurity firms, Google's threat intelligence group, iVerify, and Lookout, jointly disclosed something that sent shockwaves through the security community. They had discovered a full-chain iOS exploit framework called DarkSword, a tool so sophisticated, so precisely engineered, that it could silently compromise a fully updated iPhone without the user clicking a single link, downloading a single file, or doing anything wrong at all. It just needed you to visit a website, any website, even a government website. And within minutes, your credentials, your banking apps, your cryptocurrency, wallets, your photos, your location history, gone, exfiltrated. And then, in a move almost theatrical in its arrogance, the tool erased every trace of itself from your device. But DarkSword is only the latest chapter in a story that's been building for years. The real threat, the one that affects you right now, today, regardless of whether you've updated your phone, is something more insidious. Hackers have found a way to take your face, clone it with AI, and use it to walk through the front door of your bank account while you sleep. And the hidden tool making all of this possible is a background app that operates completely outside your awareness. To understand how this works, you have to understand what Face ID actually is, and more importantly, what it is not. Apple's Face ID uses the TrueDepth camera system to project over 30,000 infrared dots onto your face, mapping a precise 3-dimensional model of your features. The model is then converted into a mathematical hash and stored encrypted inside the secure enclave, a dedicated chip on your device that is completely isolated from the rest of the operating system. Nothing communicates with the secure enclave directly. Apple has been clear that this biometric data never leaves your device, never touches a server, never gets transmitted anywhere. On the hardware level, Face ID is genuinely impressive. Apple's own documentation states the probability of a random person unlocking your Face ID is approximately 1 in a million. Compare that to a PIN, which has a 1 in 10,000 chance of being guessed, and you begin to see why Face ID became the gold standard for mobile authentication. But here is the part Apple cannot protect. The moment your banking app, your crypto exchange, or your identity verification platform asks you to look at the camera, that is the moment you leave Apple's fortress entirely. Because those apps do not have access to the secure enclave. They cannot reach Face ID's raw data. Instead, they use your phone's camera to capture a live video stream of your face and send it to their own servers for verification. And that camera stream, that is where the attack lives. Security researchers at iProve, one of the world's leading biometric security firms, demonstrated this in a study that should have made international headlines. They took a face swapping application, sourced publicly available high-definition photos of a target from the internet, and used AI to generate a real-time deepfake video of that person's face. Then, they streamed that deepfake through a tool called Virtual Camera, Live Assist, an Android app that allows users to replace their device's physical camera feed with any video stream they choose. The app substitutes itself at the system level, intercepting the point where the camera hardware hands off data to any application requesting a video feed. The result was staggering. The deepfake successfully bypassed the liveness detection systems of multiple financial applications. The app saw a face. They detected movement. They checked for blinking and microexpressions. And they were completely fooled. This is the hidden background app you need to know about. Virtual camera tools, software like VCam, VCamSex, and Virtual Camera. Live Assist, operate by hooking directly into the camera service layer of your device's operating system. On a compromised or jailbroken iPhone, they intercept the AV Capture Session API, the system-level process that manages all real-time camera input. By hijacking this session, a malicious app can feed any pre-rendered video, including an AI-generated deepfake of your face, directly into any application requesting camera access, while maintaining the complete illusion of a live, authentic stream. The target app never knows the difference. It asked the operating system for a camera feed. The operating system delivered one. The fact that what it delivered was a synthetic copy of your face assembled from stolen photos is invisible to the application's verification logic. And this is not a theoretical edge case. Threat intelligence firm Group IB documented 8,065 biometric injection. Attack attempts against the digital verification flow of a single financial institution, just one bank, between January and August of 2025. Over 8,000 attempts in 8 months, all using AI-generated deepfake images injected through virtual camera pipelines. The attacks were not random. They were automated, targeted, and scalable. One researcher described it as a digital assembly line for identity theft. The malware family that pioneered this approach at scale has a name: Gold Pickaxe. Developed by a sophisticated Chinese cybercrime group tracked as Gold Factory, Gold Pickaxe represented a first-of-its-kind threat when security researchers at Group IB exposed it. The very first iOS Trojan specifically designed to steal your face. The way it works reveals just how calculated these attackers are. Gold Pickaxe does not try to break into Apple's secure enclave. It doesn't need to. Instead, it disguises itself as a legitimate government service application. Victims are directed to install it through Apple's Test Flight developer platform, a legitimate Apple tool used for app testing that bypasses the normal App Store review process. When Apple removed the malicious app from Test Flight, the attackers simply switched tactics, tricking victims into installing a mobile device management profile, which hands the attacker direct administrative control over the entire device. Once installed, Gold Pickaxe operates almost completely autonomously in the background. It captures the victim's face using the device's camera. It intercepts incoming SMS messages, including two-factor authentication codes. It requests and exfiltrates identity documents. It proxies all network traffic through the infected device to cover its tracks. And then it sends everything, your face, your ID, your authentication, credentials, to remote servers controlled by the attackers, who use AI face swapping services to build a working deep fake of you. Thai police confirmed what researchers had long suspected. The attackers were installing banking applications on their own devices and using these captured face scans to bypass facial recognition checks and perform unauthorized withdrawals directly from victims' accounts. A Vietnamese citizen lost their life savings this way before investigators even understood what had happened. Gold Pickaxe was initially concentrated in Southeast Asia, targeting victims in Thailand and Vietnam. But security researchers issued an explicit warning. The techniques employed are not geographically limited. They are globally applicable. Any banking system, any crypto exchange, any identity verification platform that relies on camera-based facial authentication is vulnerable to this exact methodology. And by 2025, researchers at SumSub reported that deepfake fraud incidents had surged by 1,100% year over year. Not 11%, not 100%, 1,100%. The scale of growth is almost impossible to process. What makes this threat so particularly dangerous is the combination of accessibility and sophistication. 5 years ago, creating a convincing real-time deepfake required specialized hardware, professional AI, expertise, and significant computational resources. Today, the tools are available to anyone willing to pay a subscription fee. Telegram channels openly advertise deepfake bypass services for hire. MIT Technology. Review reported in April 2026 that these illicit tools, specifically designed to bypass the KYC facial scans used by banks and crypto exchanges, are being sold openly on messaging platforms, packaged as ready-to-use services with customer support. The industrialization of Face ID fraud is complete. And then there is Dark Sword. If Gold Pickaxe was a scalpel, targeted surgical requiring social engineering to gain initial access, Dark Sword is a bomb. Disclosed jointly by Google, iVerify, and Lookout in March 2026, Dark Sword is a full-chain iOS exploit framework that chains 6 separate vulnerabilities, 3 of them previously unknown 0 days, to achieve complete device compromise without any user interaction whatsoever. You do not need to download anything. You do not need to click anything. You simply need to visit a compromised website, and Dark Sword executes silently in the background, gaining root-level access to your device within minutes. The technical architecture of Dark Sword is genuinely alarming. It begins with CVE 2025-14174, a memory corruption vulnerability in the Angle rendering engine deep within the WebKit framework that powers Safari. By exploiting this flaw through a malicious iframe embedded in any ordinary web page, attackers can inject malicious code into media playback, a core system daemon on your iPhone, escaping Safari's sandbox entirely. From there, a second vulnerability, CVE 2026-2700, disables Apple's pointer authentication code system, which is one of the iPhone's most important kernel integrity protections. With that protection down, 2 additional kernel-level vulnerabilities allow the attacker to execute arbitrary code with root privileges. In plain language, your phone becomes theirs, completely, instantly, invisibly. Dark Sword was not just theoretical. Researchers identified active campaigns using Dark Sword beginning in November 2025. One campaign, attributed to a threat actor designated UNC6353, used it to target Ukrainian users through a compromised Ukrainian government website, a .gov.ua domain. Another campaign, linked to a Turkish commercial surveillance vendor called Pars Defense, used Dark Sword to target users in Turkey and Malaysia. A third campaign targeted Saudi Arabian users through a Snapchat-themed spoofed website. The exploit was being sold, licensed, and deployed by multiple distinct threat actors simultaneously. iVerify estimated that the iOS versions vulnerable to Darksword were running on up to 270 million devices worldwide at the time of disclosure. Once Darksword gains access to a device, it deploys a backdoor called Ghostblade that silently collects a staggering breadth of information, device details, all installed, applications, account credentials, complete location history, every photo on the device, calendar entries, personal notes, cryptocurrency wallet data, and complete Safari browsing history. This data haul is then exfiltrated through an encrypted channel before the malware erases itself, leaving no forensic trace. And critically, with access to your device at this level, an attacker does not need to break Face ID at the hardware level at all. They already have everything they need to impersonate you. This is the convergence that security experts have been warning about for years, and that is now playing out in real time. On one track, you have the virtual camera attack pipeline, deepfake faces injected through background apps to fool banking applications into granting access. On the other track, you have zero-day exploit chains like Darksword that compromise devices at the kernel level to steal credentials and biometric data directly. These two tracks are merging. As Deloitte's Center for Financial Services has projected, generative AI-enabled fraud will reach $40 billion in the United States alone by 2027, up from $12.3 billion in 2023. Gartner has stated that by 2026, 30% of enterprises will no longer consider standalone facial biometric verification to be a reliable security measure. These are not alarmist predictions. These are calibrated assessments from organizations that have been watching this threat evolve in real time. So what can you actually do about it? The answer is layered, because the threat is layered. The single most important thing you can do right now, today, is update your iPhone. The Darksword vulnerabilities were patched across iOS 18.7.2, 18.7.3, and iOS 26.1 through 26.3. If you're running anything below these versions, you're carrying a device that is known to be compromised by an active deployed exploit chain. Go to Settings, General, Software Update, and install whatever is waiting there. This is not optional. This is the digital equivalent of locking your front door. The staggering reality is that an estimated 270 million devices were still running vulnerable iOS versions when Darksword was disclosed in March 2026. That number represents a choice, the choice to delay updates, that directly enables mass exploitation. The second line of defense is awareness around what apps you install and where you install them from. Gold pickaxe and malware families like it gain entry through channels that exist outside the standard app store. Review process. Test flight developer links sent through messaging apps, mobile device management profiles delivered through suspicious websites, apps distributed through unofficial pages that mimic legitimate app stores. If anyone, regardless of how official they appear, asks you to install an app from a link sent through a messaging platform like Line, WhatsApp, or Telegram, treat that as an immediate red flag. Government services and legitimate banks do not distribute their apps this way. Third, be deeply suspicious of any app or service that asks you to perform a facial scan as part of an enrollment or verification process, particularly if you were directed to that app through an unsolicited message. The gold pickaxe attack specifically exploits the social engineering moment where a victim is tricked into believing they need to complete a facial scan for a legitimate government or banking service. Once you perform that scan inside a malicious app, your biometric data belongs to the attacker. For higher risk individuals, executives, journalists, lawyers, political figures, anyone who handles sensitive financial or personal data, security researchers explicitly recommend enabling lockdown mode on your iPhone. Lockdown mode, accessible through settings, privacy, and security, is an extreme protection state that Apple designed specifically for users facing sophisticated targeted attacks. It disables certain features and limits connectivity in ways that make many of the most advanced exploit chains, including those used by Darksword, functionally inoperable. If you have received an Apple threat notification through your Apple ID account, enabling lockdown mode is not a suggestion. It is urgent. Fourth, apply the same skepticism to your two-factor authentication setup that you would to your front door. Attackers who have already compromised your device through a Trojan like gold pickaxe are simultaneously intercepting your SMS messages, meaning that text-based two-factor authentication offers almost no additional protection once your phone is compromised, wherever possible. Switch to an authenticator app, something like Google Authenticator or Authy, or better yet, a hardware security key. These authentication methods generate codes locally and cannot be intercepted remotely. Finally, watch your financial accounts with the same attention you would give a security camera. The lag between when an attacker gains access to your banking credentials and When they act on that, access can sometimes be days or weeks. Attackers accumulate data, wait for the right moment, and move large sums quickly. Enable transaction notifications on every financial account you hold. Review your account activity regularly. If your bank offers biometric re-verification for large transactions, ensure it is enabled, while being aware that even this is not foolproof given the deep fake injection landscape. The uncomfortable truth at the center of all of this is that Face ID, remarkable as it is as a piece of engineering, was never designed to be the last line of defense against a world where AI can reconstruct your face from 3 social media photos and a 30-second video clip. Apple's Secure Enclave protects your biometric template with military-grade encryption. But the apps built on top of your phone's camera have no such protection, and the sophistication of the attacks being deployed against them in 2026 has fundamentally outpaced the defenses most of those apps have in place. The researchers are not panicking, but they are urgently calling for a new architecture of trust, one where device integrity is continuously verified, where camera pipelines are cryptographically authenticated, where behavioral anomalies are flagged in real time, and where the assumption is no longer that because the face matches, the person is who they say they are. The era of trusting a face is over. In its place, something harder, more layered, and more honest about the sophistication of modern adversaries needs to be built. Until then, the best weapon you have is knowledge. You now know how the attack works. You know what tools attackers use. You know which malware families are active, which vulnerabilities are being exploited, and which version of iOS you need to be running to be protected. The phone in your pocket holds more sensitive information about you than any filing cabinet, any safe, any locked room in history ever has. Treat it like it. Update it. Audit what runs on it. Question every request to scan your face. And understand that the most dangerous app on your phone right now may be one you installed weeks ago without a second thought, running silently in the background, waiting for its moment.